I remember somebody sending me a channel where he first kind of comes out saying he's a Hebrew, and I kind of warned of that progression and what it typically leads to. And ever since then, we've seen a migration or evolution, to better yet call it, of his beliefs. So now where he's calling, the last he ever talked about, Christianity, he says is pagan now. And, so I warned about, hey, what this usually, the Hebrew road, what it usually leads to. And I think now we're seeing more of that manifestation of it.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about certain beliefs more than we're going to talk about a certain person. But we are going to give the person as an example of someone promoting these beliefs which are in error. And so the person, as previously mentioned, is Eshon Burgundy. Eshon was a lot of us, one of our favorite artists. He was one of those artists when he was really doing Christian hip-hop who had good lyrical ability, theological content, but still, kept his ear to the street, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people really liked a lot of what he's doing. He had a lot of support amongst the Reform crowd and CHH in general for his abilities.
Is black people are the Israelites that the Bible speak of. That is the gospel, that he now is wanting to proclaim.
Well, what I caught in one of Eshon's live streams on this was, they try to tell us,
right,
the gospel, stick to the gospel. Mm-hmm. And they'll push that like that's what we need.
Yeah.
But he said that reminds him of what the slave masters would tell the slaves.
Yep.
And he said, okay, I get it, the gospel is the entry point. We got the gospel, but now what?
Right.
And so for a gospel-centered Christian or someone who tries to center their theology with the gospel, that's troubling because you realize that the gospel is not the basics of Christianity and then you go on to something better. The
right.
gospel is the center of it.
Yeah.
And this idea that some basic or simplistic thing, well, now what, is problematic.
When he says it right here. This is their response. The Jews therefore said among themselves, where will this man go that we will not find him? Will he go to the dispersion among the Greeks? Right there, to teach the Greeks. He's not talking about going to the pagan Gentiles. He's saying...
How does he know he's not talking about the pagan Gentiles?
Exactly.
I don't understand that. Now, it doesn't say pagan Gentiles, but it does say Greeks.
And as you said, no, the dispersion isn't just among Israelites. There are other, groups who are dispersed.
Yeah, now that's true. I was saying that more in relationship to this idea of like what he was saying about Amos. Now, to be fair, I want everyone to understand, I wasn't saying that when they're talking about dispersion here, they're thinking about, some other ethnic group. Certainly these mistaken Jews, not the disciples in this context, right, are thinking about the Jews dispersed amongst the Greeks because that's what it says there. But right, then it says, and teach the Greeks. Now here's the thing, this guy doesn't like the thought of Jesus, of Jesus teaching Greeks, which is funny though because that's exactly what his early church did. But my bet is they would find ways around that as well, and I think we're going to see that in this clip.
I remember a time when I was nothing like this, yeah. I remember when what I wanted was what I wanted. No discipline, no wise judgment. That's when my God was my stomach, and it's pride for destruction. Arrogance for you start crashing. Felt the repercussions, turned from sin and started fasting. Not a vibe for a paycheck, till you gave me my passion. For the time being, I gave my family an African address to give us peace from police and American madness. Give us an upright heart so we serve you with gladness. Thankful for every breath you've allowed me to breathe, for every form of success you've allowed me to reach, for every time you let me speak to your people and preach. For a wife with a personal standard of a queen, her accountability helped me become a king. A loving mother to my seeds, a blessing indeed. In preparation for Shabbat, she cooking a feast. Taught my children how to worship and taught them to read. Father, you keep saving me from the powers that be. You'll never let the enemy devour Jacob's seed. I live in reverse of every curse in Deuteronomy. I can forsake possessions. True blessing is your inner peace. Blessings.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rucha HaKodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to you, brethren, you believers of the truth, whoever you may be, and shalom to the elect. So real quick, before I forget anything, this is actually Vocab Malone and K-Dub, and they're discussing this man Eshon Burgundy, who was a rapper who fell out of Christianity and came to the truth, right? Now there's different levels to the truth. Just because you wake up don't mean you're the elect. I think all of us know that. But he has woken up out of plantation Christianity. And all you got to do is do your history and research on plantation Christianity going back to the 1500s or 16th century. And then you would see, even going to the Renaissance and how we start losing power, and then servitude, and then slavery, and then you can see how Christianity was forced on us. But anyway, this man K-Dub, he says that it was just other nations too that was scattered. It was not just Israelites. So what they're saying is, when it says Jew and Greek, they understand now, as the Israelites pushed out in Acts 6:1 what Grecians meant, which we'll get into that, as I did a video yesterday in that, these translators who had problems over different translations. And this is why I'm sharing the screen again, because we're going to go into an older Bible to get more understanding of that. So first we must understand one thing. Let's go to Ezekiel 22:15, same as Deuteronomy 28:64. And he says, I will scatter thee among the heathen, and disperse thee in the countries, and I will consume thy filthiness out of thee. Now, let me get another one. Deuteronomy 28. Let's get Deuteronomy 28, and I'm gonna drop down to 64, and let's see what that says. Pretty much the same thing. It's one of my favorite scriptures when it comes to stuff like this. Deuteronomy 28:64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. All people. This is what Revelation 7:9 saying, right? When it talks about the multitudes, kindreds, peoples, and tongues. And all you got to do is look up kindreds. You look up peoples, right? Tongues. And you can even look up nations, which is another word for Gentile. That universal word that was placed there to mean several different things, which means it can mean the actual of a Greek, or it can mean of an Israelite, right? I don't know why they can't get that, right? There's words that spell the same but have different meanings. Like your tie, like you put on a necktie, or you run a race and win a tie. Anyway, it says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither nor thy fathers have known, even in wood and stone. So this cuts Galatians 3:28 when it says, whether Jew or Greek. And this guy K-Dub, who says, the brother and fighter of Christianity, when he says, well, it was just talking about Israelites. There was other nations outside the Israelites that was scattered. And that's BS. Because, and that's true, the problem is you had Israelites amongst them. I don't know why they don't understand that. If the Israelites is going to be scattered amongst all nations, and when you look at the Greeks and understanding the Greek theology, or let me say the nation, so to speak, it was multitudes of nations amongst the Greeks. And this is Revelation 7:9, a multitude of nations, kindreds, peoples, and tongues. Right? The Israelites has been bordering different lands and been scattering. Then you had a big scattering. Right? So, I just wanted to clear that up. You can't just say, oh, this was just Jews and then it was just other nations. Our people, it says they will serve other gods in wood and stone. Our people were following like other nations. This is exactly why in Acts 16, when it said Timothy, his mother, who was a Jewish, who believed. She was a Jewess who believed. That's why they said she was a Jewess. And his father was a Greek. But Vocab didn't see the word Grecian there, because he understands in Acts 16:1 it says 6:1 it says Grecian, but Acts 16:1 it says Greek. Okay, so a lot of these translations, especially out of the Greek, right? Out of the Greek, there was issues, right? But we're going to read I mean, especially when the translators translated it. You had this guy Erasmus in the 1500s, and Martin Luther. They had a serious problem translating the Latin, right? And this word Greek is not a Hebrew nor Greek word. It's actually a Latin word. So anyway, let's go back to John 7:35, right? It says, then said the Jews amongst themselves, whither will we go that we shall not find him? Will we go to the dispersed among the Gentiles, right? Meaning the Israelites among the Gentiles, and what they see, and what Vocab is saying, well, we go to the dispersed amongst the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles, right? Because you know what they were doing? They were following Gentile customs, Greek customs. This is exactly what they were doing. And they had a problem with it. And Yahushua was there to bring mercy. His whole point of the ministry was to die for the children of Israel and bring them back through faith and grace. Because these wicked Pharisees, they didn't believe. They didn't believe in the Most High. That's why he was getting on them in Matthew 23. In fact, in the same chapter, in John 7, it says the unbelief of the Jewish leaders. This is exactly what it says. Okay? So we go here to John. I want to read some different translations. Let's go to John 7:35. This Bible is the Wycliffe Bible of 1534. One of my favorites. Now, you don't have to go into these older Bibles. I just like going into them. You know, I'm intrigued by these older Bibles, you know. It says, then said the Jews between themselves, whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will we go among the Gentiles, which are scattered all abroad? Talking about the Israelites technically that are scattered abroad, and teach the Gentiles. And this is what he's saying. These Israelites did not accept being Israelites. They called themselves Greeks. So you can see in this text that this is what they were being called. That's all they're saying. Right? Then it goes on to say, what manner of saying is that he saith, ye shall seek me and shall not find me, and whether I am, there can ye not come. In the last days, that great day of feast, Yahushua stole and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. Right? So this is representing us now, right? Everything aforetime is written for our learning, coming to the Lord. We don't have to get on planes and fly across the country. Right? There's Israelites who'll do that, fly all the way out of countries. Look, man, all you got to do, like this guy Eshon Burgundy, he just woke up. He saw it on the internet and he woke up. That's really all it takes. So let's go to another Bible. I'm only going to get a couple of them. And maybe the Tyndale Bible? I don't know. Let's see what this one says. This says, then said the Jews that believe, whither will she go that we shall not find him? Will he go amongst the Gentiles, which are scattered all abroad, and teach the Gentiles? Right? Again, Vocab is saying what this is saying. Wait a minute, it's going to the Gentiles, but then he's going to teach the Greeks. It's just following up what was being said. This is what Old English writing was. Right? Let's go to the Geneva Bible. I like this Bible. This is before the 1611. Can you imagine, like, all these translations now? Each time it gets translated, there's one word or two words. Like if somebody wrote the Bible today, a lot of the Old English writing would not be there. It would be a totally different view in how it looked, and they would try to make it more simplified. But the problem is they lose context because the understanding of it, right? And this is why we solely stick to the King James Version, because we understand it. We don't have to go into these old Bibles. They got a blue letter, and of course the blue letter is not going to be 100% correct, because when you go to let me go here. I'm going to show you why. John 7:35. Then said the Jews to themselves, whither shall we go that we shall not find him? Will we go amongst the dispersed, amongst the Grecians, and teach the Grecians? This is still following up. Now, you clearly see some translations said Gentile, which some translations say Greek. Well, when you look at some translations, Greek will be, you might see nation, then you might see Greek, then you might see heathen, and here you see Grecians, right? So you have to get the understanding of what it is. So this is going to Hellenistic, Hellenistes, right? So when you look at the Israelites, and you could say, okay, they went amongst the heathen people, and then out of the heathen people taught the Israelites, right? But you can see here it says the dispersed, and they claiming it the same, because in this same book it may say Greek. So in Galatians 3:28 it says whether Jew or Greek, but in this text, the older Bible prior, it says Jew and Grecian, just like we see in Acts 6:1 when they talk about the murmuring widows. They were murmuring with their widows and Grecians, which Grecian meant Hellenistic Jews, Hellenistes. But then when you go to Galatians 3:28, it says Hellene. So that's where it kind of goes off. But you had our people who did not accept being Israelites or Jews, like today. Ask somebody they're Israelite today, they're like, no, I'm an American. Right? So that's the point I wanted to make. When you see here, will we go into this disperse amongst the Grecians and teach the Grecians? When you go to Hellenistes, it actually means Israelites. And Vocab and them is not going to see that. He believes at one point it says dispersed amongst the Israelites, but then to the Greeks. You can't hold water on the word Greek and think it's always talking about a heathen nation, although it could be. It's called properly implying context. This is why when you get on a blue letter or even a dictionary, it'll say 1A, B, 2B, C, because it has to properly apply to what you're talking about. Right? Let's go to Isaiah 10 and 20. And it says, and it shall come to pass in that day that a remnant of Israel, such that has escaped of the house of Jacob, shall no longer again stay upon him that smote them, but they shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return. This is what we was reading in John 7:35 in a sense. What should we go amongst the Gentiles? Well, at the end of the day, and you know, he went through Decapolis, I believe the 10 cities. But at the end of the day, we are to return to the Lord. And we can't get on planes and do it. We can't get on motorcycles, right? We can't get on boats and ships, right? We can only return to the Lord through the Spirit. Okay? Now, this is why I read Deuteronomy, because we shall be scattered amongst all nations from one end of the earth even into the other. Right? That's what Deuteronomy 28:64 says. In Ezekiel 22. So when you see in Galatians 3:28 and it says Hellene, it would say, sometimes it'll say usually non-Jew. But when you read it, it'll say all nations not Jews that made Greek their tongue. Why is it not Jews? Because you had Israelites, right, who didn't make Greek their tongue. They knew they were Israelites. But you can't say not Jews as a whole, because as we read here in Ezekiel 22 and Deuteronomy 28:64, they were scattered amongst them. So you can't say that. So that doesn't hold water. Right? It says, for though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, this is what we're saying, we're scattered, right? Yet a remnant of them shall return, consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. Right? That's pretty much the point. That's pretty much the point. So anyway, hope this lesson was edifying. That's all I have on that. Shalom.